Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivannadari Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivannadari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivannadari Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada ki, Anantikoti Vaishnavinda ki, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 10, Text 20. The chapter is entitled Pastimes of Lord Rāmacandra. Te nīkapā raghupater abhipatya sarve. Dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ. Jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ. sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān. Te nīkapā raghupater abhipatya sarve. dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ. jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ. sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān. Te nīkapā raghupater abhipatya sarve. dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ. jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ. sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān. nīkapā raghupater abhipatya sarve.
dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ.
dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ.
jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ.
jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ.
sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān.
sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān.
raghupater abhipatya sarve. dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ.
dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ.
jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ.
jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ.
sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān.
sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān. te nīkapā raghupater abhipatya sarve.
dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ.
dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ.
jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ.
drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ.
sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān.
sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān. Mataji's. te nīkapā raghupater abhipatya sarve.
dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ.
Dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ.
jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ.
Jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ.
sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān.
sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān. Nīkapā raghupater abhipatya sarve.
dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ.
Dvandvam varūtham ibha-patti-rathāśva-yodhaiḥ.
jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ.
Jaghnuḥ drumair giri-gadeṣubhir aṅgada-ādyāḥ.
sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān.
sītābhimarṣa-hata-maṅgala-rāvaṇeśān. Okay. Te, all of them. Anīka-pāḥ, the commanders of the soldiers. Raghupater, of Lord Śrī Rāmacandra. Abhipatya, chasing the enemy. Sarve, all of them. Dvandvam, fighting. Varūtham, the soldiers of Ravana. Ibha, by elephants. Patti, by infantry. Ratha, by chariots. Aśva, by horses. Yodhaiḥ, by such warriors. Jaghnuḥ, killing them. Drumair, by throwing big trees. Giri, by peaks of mountains. Gadā, by clubs. iṣubhiḥ, by arrows. Aṅgada-ādyāḥ, all the soldiers of Lord Rāmacandra, headed by Aṅgada and others. Sīta, of Mother Sita. Abhimarṣa, by the anger. Hata, had been condemned. Mangala, whose auspiciousness. Ravana-īśān, the followers or dependents of Ravana. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Aṅgada and the other commanders of the soldiers of Rāmacandra faced the elephants, infantry, horses and chariots of the enemy and hurled against them big trees, mountain peaks, clubs and arrows. Thus the soldiers of Lord Rāmacandra killed Ravana's soldiers who had lost all good fortune because Ravana had been condemned by the anger of Mother Sita. Purport. The soldiers Lord Rāmacandra recruited in the jungle were all monkeys and did not have proper equipment with which to fight the soldiers of Ravana. For Ravana's soldiers were equipped with weapons of modern warfare, whereas the monkeys could only throw stones, mountain peaks and trees. It was only Lord Rāmacandra and Lakshman who shot some arrows, but because the soldiers of Ravana were condemned by the curse of Mother Sita, the monkeys were able to kill them simply by throwing stones and trees. There are two kinds of strength, daiva and puruṣākara. Daiva refers to the strength achieved from the transcendence, and puruṣākara refers to the strength organized by one's own intelligence and power. Transcendental power is always superior to the power of the materialist. Depending on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one must fight one's enemy even though one may not be equipped with modern weapons. Therefore, Krishna instructed Arjuna, Ma manusmara yutya cha. Think of me and fight. We should fight our enemy to the best of our ability, but for victory we must depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjala-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manomishtam Sthapitang Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaisnavangscha Shri Rupang Sagrajatang Sahagana Raghunatang Vitamtang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dino Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchan Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishvare Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vaṅkṣakalpa Turbhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadata Shivasade Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Aṅgada and the other commanders of the soldiers of Rāmacandra faced the elephants, infantry, horses, and chariots of the enemy and hurled against them big trees, mountain peaks, clubs, and arrows. Thus the soldiers of Lord Rāmacandra killed Ravana's soldiers, who had lost all good fortune because Ravana had been condemned by the anger of Mother Sita. So in this purport there are two main points which Prabhupada is bringing out. One is the power of a woman and what happens to her when she's not protected or when she's offended, as well as dependence on Krishna for everything, and emphasis also on we just doing our duty while depending on Krishna like this, which Lord Rāmacandra was an embodiment of. So he's should I be closer? Okay. So Lord Rāmacandra did come to exhibit perfect human behavior by perfectly following the rules, regulations for human beings like us. And that even though he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has descended to exhibit human-like forms, and also he showed human-like emotions as well, which I think is also an important thing which he shows. So this first point about the victory against Ravana was due to the curse of Mother Sita. And Prabhupada says that there was actually a great imbalance between the technology that the monkeys had and the technology that Ravana had. So Ravana had acquired all kinds of weapons, all kinds of celestial weapons from the demigods that he had dominated, and his sons and commanders-in-chief, they had all had similar types of weapons. And in fact, any one of them were actually able to completely conquer this army of monkeys. And this also accounts for Ravana's confidence that he had. In his mind, it was like, there's no two ways about it. These are just monkeys. Just look at my host of warriors that can defeat even the gods. The gods don't even think about confronting them. So what are these monkeys going to do? So he was sending them out one after the other. And even though they were all getting slain, one after the other, effortlessly, by various monkeys in the army, not just one or two, he still felt confident that, no, we should be able to win. And throughout the whole portion where Ravana had kept Sita in Lanka, so many advisors had come to him and said that you have invited the destruction of your race because of the sinful act of kidnapping this woman who he had offended. You should immediately give her back or everything will be gone. So these advisors, they understood the scriptures. They understood very well that the power that a woman can have, either in bestowing benediction or in cursing. So generally, we consider when we hear of curses, we think of a Brahman going like this. or he pulls out a bit of hair and he throws it down and some curse is uttered, and then everybody understands, oh, a demon manifests, or a person changes, he gets leprosy, or he turns into stone, something dramatic like that. But we don't consider that a curse can also be more subtle. A curse can also be something that enters into the ether, and it's something that can creep at the back of your mind and change the way that you think and feel, which can cause you to attain success or failure. A blessings, obviously, is for success. So, in that sense, everybody has the ability to please, to bless and to curse. So, whenever we do something kind to somebody, whatever positive thought they have, it's a type of a blessing. And if we are insensitive to somebody, if we are mean to somebody, we are unjust, then whatever negative feeling they have, that is like a type of a curse. It goes to you. And when one treats a woman in a particular way, the way they feel is generally amplified compared to when a man deals with it. Generally, men go into the head, and it's like a mental affair. But with ladies, it's more of the energy is more potent, because they're Shakti. So now consider when the accumulated effect of 1,000 people who you have treated kindly, you can see that this is actually significant. So a sage is somebody who's so powerful that in his intention, he gathers all his energies. And therefore, the blessing of one such person has the same effect of many thousands of like ordinary people. But the point remains still that everybody has this potency. And women in particular, they will respond to whatever treatment or energy you give to them. And in this case, Mother Sita was offended. And because she was very chaste, she was also super powerful. And because of that offense that she felt, Ravana had no power whatsoever. So, and Ravana was defeated more than once as well. He was defeated by Rāmacandra, and he fled back to the capital, and then he came back again. And even at that time, they said, listen, you already were defeated. Why are you coming again? Just surrender to him. It's not too late. But he was too much filled with lust, with his idea of how he will enjoy something. He had made some plans, and he had made arrangements to execute those plans, and he was completely sold out to it. So, with this understanding, it's clear to see why the protection of women in society is so important. Because, generally speaking, women have an increased tendency to serve. Women have an increased tendency to help others selflessly. That's why they are more suitable at being mothers than fathers. Because it's more their nature to be able to sacrifice their own personal comfort, for their children. So, because of this mentality that they have, the innate tendency of a woman is they see faults. This is also why women, criticize a lot. It's because they can see these things. Because innately, they're actually trying to see how to serve. And these faults that they're seeing are actually, how can we improve the situation? As conditioning comes on from past lives and from this current life, intentions can change, but that ability is still there. But the innate ability is good. So then women have this tendency to also want to give advice, give some perspective on things. But it's easy to silence that voice. So if a woman just says, shush, shush, say, chup, 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 then they don't feel the need. They say, okay, fine. They feel a little bit hurt, and then they don't want to speak. They don't feel comfortable. Whereas if you say that to a man, he could like, tsh, tsh. Who are you talking to? You should listen to me. They've got more strength to oppose that. And in time, when women are repeatedly treated like this, then after a while they just stop attempting to give any kind of advice, which is a great loss to society because the advice is invaluable to the progression of human civilization. In fact, it says that adharma bhibavat Krishna padushyanti kulastriha. That first, when irreligion became predominant, then women became polluted. So irreligion comes first. Irreligion also means you're not executing your duties. So it stands to reason then, to be able to purify or to correct that mistake, religion has to be established. And the step before that, Arjuna is saying that, when the family tradition is vanquished, then irreligion comes. So this family tradition for us is Vaishnav culture, Vaishnav etiquette, and as well as applying these principles of Krishna consciousness in our life, that we actually exhibit detachment in our activities, we actually strive to attain satisfaction through devotional service and not through other means. So woman can be seen as a measurement of the success of human society. When women are unhappy, they're complaining, they are not like, then you can see that things are going to fall apart real soon, right? And when women are happy, they're protected, they're well engaged, then it flourishes. It's said that in the house where a man and a woman lives happily together, the goddess of fortune resides there. But in the house where a woman cries on account of how she's treated, the goddess Lakshmi runs far away. Lakshmi means success, not just money. All kinds of fortune, auspiciousness. The one factor which is required for success is auspiciousness. Proper planning and stuff are secondary. Auspiciousness is what determines that. Similarly in the Mahabharata, that there was also a great imbalance between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. But because Draupadi had been offended, the Kauravas were finished. They were finished. So, therefore we should pay close attention. What is the condition of the woman in our society? If we wish to establish any kind of society, we're trying for Varna ashram, but if you want to establish any kind of balanced, peaceful society, we have to pay attention to that. And one good way of finding out is going to ask them. Do you have a suggestion? How do you feel about these things? So these are important. And then we are supposed to be able to integrate that with our understanding of scriptures. We're supposed to be able to consult the acharyas, the senior devotees, on how we can integrate these things, to apply these principles. So otherwise we will be heading for the same direction as Ravana, as the Lanka was. So this is an essential point. So this protection of women. So, which could mean various things, which I'm not going to get into now because that's a whole discussion of what does that mean. But I think this principle is clear of why this is needed. And the second point Prabhupada makes here is about performing our duties with detachment. So the success of anything that we do does not depend on us. In fact, Krishna says in the second chapter that you're entitled to perform your duties, but you're not entitled to the fruits of those duties. So we tend to measure ourselves and our success as a human being or as a devotee by the result that we attain. Was I able to get invited to give a Bhagavatam class? Or am I able to get asked to lead a kirtan? Or did I attain the position of a regional secretary or at least temple president, Or were I able to distribute a certain amount of books? Was I able to make a certain amount of devotees? So we measure our success by that. Shri Shri Radha Madhava Shakti Ki. But this is not the true measure of success. The true measure of our success is our intention to please Krishna and endeavoring to do so. Because there are just these three aspects mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of the definition of bhakti. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. There's intention, there's Krishna, and there's some activity. This Shilanam can mean, Jiva Goswami explains, it could mean, Anushilanam could mean following the acharyas. And then he also explains, Anushilanam also means there's Cheshtarup and Bhavarup, there's an external physical thing you're doing, or a sentiment you're expressing as well. It also counts as bhakti. And if that is directed to Krishna for his pleasure, then that is bhakti. Sometimes we try to express sentiments for our own pleasure. So Krishna still accepts it, but it's not pure. So this intention in our service that we do, or our duties that we perform, becomes bhakti. So Van Ashram Dharma means that even if the individual is not Krishna conscious, they're still cultivating detachment by executing of their duties. And because they are following Krishna's law, Krishna's blessings and purification comes through that, and then gradually, over a few lifetimes, individuals can raise up to the status of a Brahman, which they then can start studying the Vedas and getting realization of Brahman, and then furthering that and becoming a Vaishnav. And Srila Prabhupada has just come and just from the bottom, just put in Krishna consciousness. And in that way, we can skip that whole process. But for people who are not willing to surrender to that, Van Ashram Dharma is required, so they can still benefit. And through that, they still accept some kind of authority. So therefore, even an atheist doesn't have to accept God, but he has to accept Van Ashram. Then he can make advancement. He can get purification. Krishna's system is so brilliant that you don't have to change an individual for them to be able to be in Van Ashram, other than they have to cooperate with it. They can have all the desires fulfilled and accept the ones which are sinful. Blatantly sinful, like, and there are actually not many of those. And certain sinful desires can be obtained or realized in a dharmic way through Vedic rituals. In the first canto, Prabhupada talks about this. He says that, he mentions it, or he calls it, he says that all activity which is not meant to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead is adharma. Only service is dharma. Everything else is adharma. But because we are conditioned, we cannot not perform adharma. So then Krishna gives it rituals in a way that we can perform the adharma and we call it dharma. One example is, for example, getting married and enjoying sex life between a man and a woman in a regulated fashion. It's actually sinful, but now it is spiritual. So Krishna does it in that way, and Prabhupada calls this necessary adharma. It's in the first canto, purport. When I read this the first time, actually it flew over my head. The second time, a few years when I read this, I was like, wow, this is really profound. This concept of Krishna lets us perform this necessary adharma in a way which we call it dharma, and it purifies us. But then he also mentions sacrifices, for example, such as yagyas where liquor comes out of. And he says people who are attached to that, they can get it, for example. And he said devotees need to learn how to perform these yagyas too. He said it in the purport. Interesting. So then he also mentions, but we do not promote these things. Because if you do not need these things, you cannot use this as an excuse to obtain that, because then it is sinful. Like, for example, we are not attached to liquor. Now we think, oh, okay, I can drink liquor from this yagya, so then you go and pursue it. No. Prabhupada says, you're a rascal if you think like this. This is meant for people who cannot stop it. You give it to them. And through this process, they can be freed. Similarly, the process of obtaining meat is very clearly explained, how you raise your own little lesser animal like a goat, and once a month on a new moon, you perform a ritual, and there's a meditation involved, and you kill the animal yourself. This is the proper process for people who cannot give it up. So fortunately, we were able to give that up by Prabhupada's mercy. By people who take advantage of his mercy, they can all get this result. But not everybody is willing to do that. So dharma has to be understood according to time, place, and circumstance. It's not something that's black and white. I can't say, this is dharma, and all of you have to do it. It doesn't work like that. Mahabharata is full of conversations of Yudhishthira saying, the dharma is very intricate. it's not so straightforward what to do at any given moment. It's very difficult, actually. So, therefore, it's best we just focus on our own dharma. Unless we're in a position of guru or community leader, where we're assisting others as well, then that is our service. But otherwise, it's best to focus on our own. And charity starts at home. And while performing this duty, sometimes we might become upset because we're not able to perform that duty. Lord Rāmacandra was frustrated because he was not able to perform his duty of being protected or to protect Mother Sita. Even the situation happened because Sita wasn't listening to good advice. When she saw Maricha in the form of a deer, and she said, please go and capture this for me. Lord Ram and Lakshman looked at each other and they're like, I don't think that's a deer. No, I think that might be a Rakshasa in disguise. And then Lord Rama had said, and I think this is also really beautiful, he said, Sita had never asked him anything before. And because she asked him this one thing, he felt obliged to do this. So then he left, and then we know the story of how then Lakshman had also had left, and because of that, they couldn't execute their duties. And then Lord Ram went through human emotions, which I think is also important to focus on, because he showed that it's okay to be human. It's a natural feeling to feel disappointed when something goes wrong. It's a natural feeling to feel disappointed when there's some failure. And then he also briefly went into the motion of the wrong path of how to respond to these things. He wanted to give up his life. He wanted to destroy the earth. He wanted to do various things. And then Lakshman brought him to his senses. He said, no, 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 this is not your duty. And this was the duty which made him sober. When he was reminded of his duty, he's like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm feeling all these things which are impelling me to act in this way, but my duty is this. So I'm going to pursue this, regardless of how I feel. And this is why boys need to be trained, so that they can act with intelligence, not with the feelings. And the emotions of women are very, very strong. It's harder for them to do that all the time. They often do that, but they can't do it consistently. But men have to do that. They hold that space. So, Lord Rāmacandra was showing human emotions, and he was also showing how to deal with these things properly. So in this way, he came to exhibit his human form as an example for us to follow, that we have to be dutiful, and we have to engage our intelligence to pursue our duties. And then the Bhagavad Gita comes and builds up on that and says, but do your duties for Krishna. Do it out of love for Krishna. Then that becomes something completely different. Even if you just do your duty, that's fine as a human being. But as a devotee, we have so much opportunity to serve Krishna through our duties, because we have so many duties. I don't think anybody can say they don't have enough to do. There's always, and in Mayapur especially, how much service is here. You can come to the temple and ask any of these sevakas here, say, is there some service I can do? Please engage me. Even if they say no, you come the next day, you ask again. Eventually they'll give you something. Krishna might test you, how much do you want this service? And he will inspire the pujari or, to respond in a certain way. Or there's a book table outside, you can distribute books. There's a Harinam party, multiple Harinam parties happening all around Mayapur. You can join any one of those. There's so many devotees who, it's not hard to see who needs support in some way or other. And it's an opportunity for developing relationships also. You see somebody, and if you're thinking, I need some service, Krishna might send you a devotee and you're supposed to ask them, how's it going? You look like you, and then find out some service. So there's no dearth of opportunities for seva here in Mayapur. It's really amazing. And this will automatically create the proper consciousness in every individual, which then naturally will translate in also, women being taken care of. So all of these things are not actually things that need to be taken care of separately. If we just become Krishna conscious, these things happen automatically. Similarly, Varn ashram is a very big discussion how to establish it. But it's my firm belief that because none of us have experience of actual Varn ashram, how we can then start something we've got no understanding of. But if we become Krishna conscious, automatically things will slot in around it, because that is Varn ashram, means Krishna in the center. That's the purpose of Varn ashram. And then, of course, we study scriptures also to make sure that things are indeed going in the right way, but Krishna is always the focus. Therefore, Rupa Goswami says that there's only one religious principle. It is to always remember Krishna and never forget him. All other religious principles are servants to this one principle. So, if we're thinking about a religious principle, out of the thousands that are there, if it's not inspiring you to remember Krishna and it's not helping you to not forget him, then you should reject it. Because what is the point of this principle then? So we should look at all these dharmas, these religious principles, through this filter only. Is this going to help me remember Krishna? Or how can I observe this in a way that will make me remember Krishna and make me not forget him? This is the correct understanding of what dharma is. Therefore, Varn ashram dharma has this function of drawing everyone's attention to Krishna. Most members in society won't be aware they're looking at Krishna, but because of Varn ashram, they will all be facing Krishna. Even the atheist who's following Varn ashram, he will be looking at God. He cannot see him because he's an illusion. He thinks he's looking at whatever's in front of him, you know. But somebody who is Krishna conscious, when he looks at his wife, he sees Krishna has come through me, to me through my wife right now. Or you look at your husband, you see Krishna has come to me as my husband right now. Or Krishna has come to me via all these facilities I have to perform my duty. My house, my money, my job, my community, my intelligence to be able to read scriptures, the opportunity to associate with devotees. This is Krishna has come in this way to us. And the most prominent way in which Krishna comes to us is as the spiritual master. It says Krishna appears before us as the spiritual master. It's the most prominent feature of Krishna in our lives. So, devotees, they training to think like this or to see like this. But others who are not devotees, they cannot see Krishna like this. But in Varn ashram, they're still looking at Krishna. They're still looking at him. It's like a cataract is there. You see some blurry image. Something is there, but you don't know what it is. You can't identify it. And therefore it says, Om jnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya. If you look at what these individual words mean, the translation is, I was born into the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. But the specific word-for-word translation says that, I forget exactly which word means which, but it says that we have a cataract, which makes us not being able to see. And there's an Ayurvedic instrument which is used to cut open the lens of the eye and insert a anjana, a balm, that you put behind the lens, which cures the cataract disease. It's an Ayurvedic procedure. So this verse actually says, my spiritual master, using the, I think it's shalakaya, has cured my cataract with the torchlight of knowledge. This is a deeper meaning. It gives a little bit more gravity about what the Guru has done for us and why we are able to see things like this. So we shouldn't be amazed, or in a sense, we shouldn't be amazed when people cannot understand Krishna, who is actually so evidently obvious, like in the universe, because they have not received these blessings of the Guru. And at the same time, it is amazing how we cannot achieve anything without the blessings of the spiritual master. You know, without the blessings of the Guru, we cannot attain anything. So, when I was in university, I was studying science, biochemistry and genetics and some similar subjects. And especially to the later years, it was very obvious to me, like I was seeing their presentations on cellular biology and the things happening inside, and I was thinking, here's the proof that God exists. It's like so obvious to me. This is evidence. How can you see it in any other way? But then these rascals use the same thing to prove God doesn't exist. And this blew my mind until I met the devotees, and a few years of practicing, I understood why. how Maya has covered them. This Maya paritagya, one of the 4 duskritinas who never approach God. One of them are the Maya paritagya, ones whose intelligence has been stolen by Maya. They've been made dull because Krishna reserves the right to be known. He doesn't have to reveal himself to anybody. So, in this way, when we are striving to understand how we can correct society and improve its potency and strength by protection of women and proper treatment of them, and how we can include them in giving us guidance and advice on how we should further conduct society, and when we're thinking about performing our own duties as Lord Rāmacandra has exhibited, and at the same time being completely open to having a completely wholesome, natural human experience, which includes all its thoughts and emotions, we should always remember Krishna and never forget him. Then everything will be success. Even if there's nuclear warfare around you, there will be success, because success of life is actually, can you remember Krishna when you leave your body? Have you developed love of God? If you've not developed a single inch of love of God in your life, your whole life has been wasted. Even if just 1 minute you perform devotional service and the rest of your life you've been a rascal, that life was not wasted. Something happened. Like that. So Lord Rāmacandra was nicely exhibiting basic standard for human behavior for us to aspire for, which in Kali Yuga is pretty much impossible. But with the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, and our whole parampara, we actually can do that and more. We're able to do that. So these are very good directions for us to think about how we should conduct ourselves, and especially leaders, they can take advantage of this information in getting valuable insight and perspective on matters which are struggling us today. Okay, Hare Krishna. Any comments or questions from anybody?
Thank you very much for this wonderful lecture, Prabhuji. So I was wondering, you were telling that we should accept everything that is favorable, to always remember Krishna and never forget him.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in the neophyte stage we are doing devotional service spontaneously. And then we really like it sometimes also.
Spontaneously?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then we got to know like more, and there are rules, etc. And then sometimes we just think like, yeah, it's not so tasteful anymore to do it according to rules and regulations. So, but then it's of course not good to just stick to your spontaneous way of doing things that is wrong or offensive, whatever. But still we have to be conscious that we should accept things that are favorable for our Krishna consciousness. So when is the point when you let go of the rules and just do it in your way again?
Okay. So these two stages are called Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raghunuga Bhakti. Practicing spiritual life or bhakti according to rules, regulations, and then spontaneous expression of that. So the short answer is that they never fall away as well, and they also fall away at the same time when one reaches a level of pure love. So what does that mean, that they never fall away? It's because even on the spontaneous platform, the rules and regulations are automatically followed. It's not that one stops following them, but you're not thinking about it anymore. It's become your nature now. So this Vaidhi sadhana is meant to train us for Raganuga actually. The purpose of it is to move beyond it, to be spontaneous in our expression of love to Krishna. So now we don't know how to love Krishna. We don't know how to do it. We've got our ideas and Krishna accepts them, But if we want to show it in its topmost possible expression, capable for us as a jiva, then we can follow the examples of those who are at that position. And they're prescribing these sadhanas. Because this is actually what they are doing, but they're not thinking, oh, I have to bow down, now I have to wash my hands, I have to turn my back to the deity, oh, I need to, release air, I'm in the temple, I can't do it. Like, these things happen automatically. These thoughts don't enter into the mind of somebody on the spontaneous platform, because out of love, it automatically happens. For the most part. So in that way, they don't actually fall away, but they fall away in the sense of your focus. Your focus. So you could say, in a sense, we're imitating that by following sadhana, by the sadhana. And then when we get sufficiently purified, that becomes our natural state of being, to do these things. So it said that how the gopis were, village girls, and they weren't educated, but they were exhibiting like the highest type of knowledge because of that spontaneous love. So it's one kind of, way of explaining it. So it's something, but also it's also a, what's the word? It's gradual. It's not like I'm now Vaidhi sadhana and I wake up one day and I made it. I'm a Draganuga. Haribol. It's a gradual thing. At any stage, you can experience spontaneity, and one should be thoughtful enough to know when not to check it. One example one sannyasi gave me was, when the darshan of the deity is open, we start taking darshan by the feet, and we go like progressively up towards the face. But sometimes it opens up and your eyes just jump towards another part of Krishna. You see his smile, you see his flute, you see his waist. He says, don't check it. Let it happen, and then you go to the feet and you go the proper. That's spontaneous. So don't stop that type of thing. We want to cultivate that. So it's and such a thing also is important, that we are in constant consultation with senior devotees who we trust, so that they can help us, so that we don't let sentiment also creep in, cheap sentiment creep in, because that can also happen. So we can talk about it with certain close friends and also with senior devotees. It's important, because some of those things are good and we should cultivate it, and other things are maybe not so good. So it's all about the intention, the motivation behind it. So it's is that okay? Did I understand your question?
Yeah, your explanation is very good, actually. But maybe I can go a bit more specific, especially when you're growing up in like a family who's practicing Krishna consciousness before you were born. And then we have some kind of love for Krishna, because you grow up with Krishna consciousness, etc. But then it happens that we, especially my younger siblings, they're like, yeah, these rules are getting on to our nerves. We want to get rid of them like that. But how can you really understand and explain to others also that we're not on the level of Raganuga Bhakti yet, and we have to follow certain rules?
Yeah, I think so you're talking about young children specifically?
Not that young anymore, but...
Okay, but they're still children. And I think depending on their maturity and their age, one should not impose it too much on them. So it's like when I was a brahmachari in the temple, there was high standard of my living environment, the worship we were doing. And then when I got married, that standard just went because you can't keep that standard, because they are kids. You don't want to push them away. You want them to come in, but you can't have it with a temple standard. So you adjust it. Something has to be there. So sometimes they will take a bite of an apple and then they'll put it on the altar. So you let them do it. Muchi stuff shouldn't go on the altar, but you let them do it, because don't stop that devotion that's there. But in time, you train them. That's very nice. You acknowledge the love, but you say, but this is a nicer way of doing it. So they should get inspired by it. I don't think anybody likes to be like, especially children. So they have to be inspired to do it. And if they're not inspired, I don't think they should be forced to do it. But a certain base can be expected from them. So when my son is older now, then I can expect him to, to offer it a little bit more attentively. Not just the Hare Krishna and then say, no, you can chant the whole mantra now. And then when he's a bit old, it's like, you know Prabhupada's mantra, so you can chant that also. You should chant that. So I think it should be done in a very nurturing and very sensitive way. It is a sensitive thing. And that's why it's a very hard task being a parent. Because we wish them to be like that, but they're their own individuals. And at the end of the day, when they're adults, they have to choose themselves, yes or no. So we hope they will choose. I think like that. But I think the spirit of the law is more important than the letter of the law to follow. And that we have to be mature enough to understand the spirit of the law and transmit that to the children. And when it's other people, it's not really our position to tell people. Unless we're their guru or we're like a leader, it's not our place to tell people. Thankfully, Bhaktisiddhanta, he says, why would you want to find fault with somebody else? It's a horrible service. I don't like doing it. I just do it because I'm a guru and it's my duty. But now you're doing it out of your free will. Why? It's not a nice thing to do. So, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes.
Thank you, Brihad Mridanga Prabhu, for a truly wonderful class. I'm so happy to see young grihasthas like you taking up this mission of Krishna consciousness, as well as taking up this service of giving the Srimad Bhagavatam class, which is a very important seva. I also love the way you brought out the importance of the role of women in our society, the qualities of nurturing, caring, empathy, giving advice and so on. And you rightly pointed out that we then just tend to tell the women, shh, 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 keep quiet, don't talk, enough. And then she shuts down, and then we lose a very valuable resource for the improvement of society. So I thought those points were excellent and something we all need to meditate on. I will relate one incident that took place in New Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada was visiting. It was very cold, very, very cold. And devotees had all gathered to listen to Prabhupada. And suddenly he noticed one of the young ladies there. She didn't have a shawl. It was very cold and she wasn't covered properly. So he immediately stopped. He looked at her and he said, "It is so cold. Why aren't you covered? Don't you have a shawl?" And she just, squirmed a little. She didn't say anything. Then he turned to the leaders and he said, "They are very shy. They will not ask. You have to see that they get everything they need and ask them so that they are comfortable and well taken care of." So this is a very important role of the leaders of our society, especially to consider the needs of women, to be sensitive to the fact that women are shy. They're not going to ask, and to understand how to take care of them nicely. This is a very important part of our education, of our training, so that our men and women can go into the next century as emotionally intelligent and very spiritually equipped people. Because today we have all the knowledge, we know all the scriptures, we know everything, but where is the relationship? So it's very nice that you brought it out, that success means not just book scores, temple president, GBC, secretary and so on, but also being successful in our relationships. Thank you.
Thank you, Machi. Okay. I think last question.
Excellent feelings.
Okay. Finish up? Okay. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande.